Welcome back. Welcome back. This is the first and the big first new show with Travis Reed, An Athlete's Journey. I'd like to thank everybody who's coming out from the other show that was on YouTube, but now I'm bringing it back to the podcast form. And in that podcast form, I'm bringing on a friend of mine who is doing real big things nowadays. You know, you might see him on American Ninja Warrior. You know, that's why I watch him, man. Because I actually love that show. But he has talk shows. You know, like he wrote a book. He is, you know, basically really doing his thing. I'm really proud of him because we basically come from the same school. You know, coming out of the same kind of area. You know, for him to make it, and even with the journey of his sports, which we'll get into later, he made the transition. You know, from good to just great, you know, and I had to get him on here and tell his story. Introduce yourself to the public.
Man, I'm Akbar Gbajabiamila, man. I've known Travis, you know, man, we go all the way back from the Crenshaw days, and it's cool, man, to be able to have this conversation. Congratulations on your podcast. You know, I've been listening to your journey too, as well. So it's funny how, you know, grow up in the same neighborhood, we go down different paths, but we have a lot of common experiences, especially when it comes to, you know, our transitioning out of the game that we love for so long. You know, for you, you know, your basketball career took you to many places out of the country, playing overseas. For me, my love of basketball didn't take me to college, but it did prepare me to play football in college, which was great. So I'm always thankful to the game of basketball. But it's cool, man. But I think, you know, when you told me that you had your podcast and I listened, and, you know, just started to listen to the journey, even how you were going to tell your kids, you know, your son, your story, and just, you know, where do you start? It's just there's a lot of layers to it. And I think the best way to do it is through dialogue, something like this. And so yeah, congrats on the podcast.
Well, like I said, I appreciate it, man. I appreciate it. Congrats to you on everything. We talked earlier, you know, for a while about, you know, your journey, and we also talked about like what you're doing now. And man, like I said, I can't praise you enough. And you know, like what you're doing is for everybody, like meaning former athletes and like, you know, us as a people, man. It's just like a inspiring story. I tell you, you know, like I said, we both know, I talked to Bean, and he was just like, man, you know, Akbar doing it, man, you know, and everybody I talk to, you know, says the same thing, like, man, he doing it big. And like I said, even my dad watches American Ninja Warrior, you know.
we gotta get your dad. We gotta get your dad on them. You and your dad, man. That would be pretty cool, man. We've had some basketball players come out. We had one guy, Bullard, who plays with the Harlem Globetrotter. He's come out. We had Tamika Catchings come out, WNBA. So we haven't had an NBA guy yet come out. So yeah, man, it'll be cool to get some hoopers out there. It's a different type of sport, though. I'm not gonna lie. I did it in 2018. Was it 2018? Yeah, 2018. That was one of the hardest things I've ever done in my life, man. It was.
Man, look, when you fall, you got to swim back, and you know, you be getting hit. Oh man, after I get hit once, I'm all right. Time out. Next.
It ain't for big dudes, because you're what, 6'5", right? 6'6", 6'5"?
Yeah, like 6'7".
Yeah, 6'7". Okay, man, my bad.
Don't be cutting off my height.
You gently correct me. No, 6'7". Hey, I'm the same way. People tell me I'm 6'4", 6'5". I'm like, no, 6'6". Get it right.
Agreed, man.
So you know, it's crazy how we connected, because, you know, I don't know what it's, every now and again, man, when I'm driving or I'm driving home or something like that, and I go into a reflective state. I don't listen to a lot of music, actually. When I'm driving, I'm either listening to a podcast, something that, you know, stimulates the brain, or I'm in silence. And I just started thinking about random things, random people, and then your name popped up. Man, I was like, whatever happened? I think I reached out or something on social media. It was just, you know, you start hearing these names from the past, or, you know, just reconnected with Tremaine folks, and you know, you start thinking about different guys that we grew up with. Like one name that's always been intriguing to me, Kenny Bruner. You know what I mean? Like, where is Kenny Bruner? You know, but yeah, it was some good time. Then we played basketball in an era that was, I'm talking about, I think it was, in my opinion, was the golden age of basketball, where you had guys who were fundamentally sound. You don't have the same type of, I mean, and no, I'm not poo-pooing on the, the younger generation, but it was just the golden age because it was the hybrid from old school basketball into this new style of basketball, but it had some of the same disciplines from the old school basketball. I think of yourself, I think of Shea Cotton. I connected with Shea Cotton. I was just trying to reach out to just different people that just was crossing my mind as I was driving. And, when I landed on you, I just thought it was just interesting to hear your journey. But yeah, man, I just thought it was a fun fact. Just, how did we get reconnected? And it was just literally just a drive and going, a random name popped up in my head. I'm going to reach out. I'm going to try to reach out.
Well, no, definitely. I definitely agree with you, Akbar, man. Like, I always felt like that 97 class was probably the deepest class in California history as far as talent. Like you said, guys like Kenny Brune. He's in Australia, by the way, coaching.
Is that right?
Yeah,
wow.
yeah. Last time I talked to him. That's
why I ain't seen him.
yeah.
He's not in the country.
He's not in the country.
Yeah, he's not in the country.
But yeah, it's, like I think about Shea, I think about Jason and Jaron Collins, Chris Burgess, Baron Davis.
Yep.
Mike,
Jason Thomas.
He's 1 year, he's 98, but like just all the guys in that era.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, Tayshaun Prince, but like, but yeah, like 97 was, like I said, I felt like it was just stupid with talent.
Right.
Mike McDonald.
What was the kid that went to UCLA for a hot second? Illusionman. Was he 96 or 97?
96. He was 96.
Okay, so
he's 96. He's 96. Yeah, he's 1 year ahead of us. He's like Corey Benjamin in them.
Okay, all right.
Yeah, he's Corey Benjamin.
As we get older, those years start to get
you get blurred together. No, I agree with you on that, for real. Because I'd be like, is he 96 or 97?
Right.
My son be like, Dad, you're old.
That's still hard for me to hear, man.
Yeah, no. I felt like Trey's dad in Boys in the Hood, because my son was like, Dad, can you cut my hair? I'm like, oh, sure. He said, but don't cut my all hair off like yours. I want to fade. So I'm like,
wow.
Yeah. So I'm like looking at it, measuring it, cutting a little bit here, cutting a little bit there.
You got to cut?
A little bit.
That's something I actually want to do. There's two things I want to learn how to do. I want to learn how to cut hair, and I want to be a full-time barista. During the pandemic, I really got into making my own coffee, bought my own machine, my espresso machine. And so I kind of go through that work. So I need to get better at that. But, I got a son with hair, and I'm like, man, I gotta, because every time the barbershop now ain't the same anymore, man.
Man.
Actually, they just raised it during the pandemic, $30 for my son's little head. I'm like, how's that $30 to cut my son's head?
Yeah, no, it's real. Now everything is inflation, man. Like you used to go in the barbers and kind of sit there and wait sometimes.
Right.
You have to make an appointment.
Right.
Otherwise, he just doesn't. My barber doesn't have any time. He just all day.
Yeah, but I've been waiting outside for 30 minutes. Nobody showed up. My hair during that time.
No, that's what I'm saying. So like, my son, he has a lot more hair than I did, and so he was like, Dad, just like kind of faded. Don't cut me like you. Just don't, because I did that. He's 12.
12. Okay. Yeah,
going on 25. Yeah.
12 going on 25. I've got a 12-year-old daughter who's going on 13 in biologically, but yeah, going on 28.
Yeah. That's the funny thing with him. He's like, Dad, I got to get my drip game up. I'm like, what is drip? I don't know what. What are you talking about?
Yeah.
And the funniest thing was, I had an argument with him. I was like, he was like, Dad, do you know who Little Uzi Vert is? And I'm like, who? And I was like, you know who Dr. Dre is? And he was like, who? Boy, I was like, boy, I'm a smack the mess out of you, boy.
We're at that age, man. Like I ran off all the little Lils. There's Little Uzi, whatever, Lil this, Lil that. Man, I just gave up. But now I know how my dad was, because I remember when I was trying to tell my dad about 50 Cent. You remember when 50 Cent came on the scene, he was hot.
Yeah.
Nothing. And then Tupac, and my dad just didn't get it. I'm like, man, like what? But now our kids are, my kids don't listen to rap like that. But yeah, I'm definitely around a lot of people who, yeah, we're just getting further and further disconnected. You know what? But I think it's because we realize we only have so much time in the day. We only have so much time left on this earth. And so you're gonna want to spend it the way you want to spend it, not try to keep up with all the, the hot trends and stuff like that. But every now and again, though, there'll be one that breaks through where you go, that young kid's got talent. You know what I mean?
Yes, yeah, yeah,
I'm gonna
yeah.
follow that kid. I'm gonna buy that kid's album or download it on whatever these. So yeah.
No, I agree. I definitely agree with you on that. There's, like I said, don't get me wrong. I know who Lil Uzi Vert is now, but this is like, I
Same
didn't
here.
really.
But I bet you can't name one of his songs.
No. I can't name not one of his songs.
Yeah.
The one young guy, if you want to say, I have a young guy who I do like. I like the baby.
The baby. Okay,
The baby. And I like a little baby too, but I like the baby.
I don't know Lil Baby. I know the baby, but I don't know Lil Baby.
Yeah. So.
They got to come up with They got to come up with a new nickname, man. There's too many Lils, man. This is
come on with a real name, Johnson Smith.
Yeah, right. This is like during the time when everybody was MC. You remember MC Light, MC Hammer, MC. Just everybody was an MC something. Like
yeah.
Come on, man. Like,
yeah, no. Come on. You guys got a big vocabulary. Come up with something with the baby.
Originality. Like take the Lils out and grow up. Grow up.
Grow up. Right. I agree with you 100%. Well, okay, man. Like I said, let's get into it.
Let's get into it. Let's dive into it.
Let's just start it. How did your journey start in basketball?
Well, basketball was my first love, man. It was, it was the Los Angeles Lakers. I was born in 1979, and I grew up in a Lakers household. I'm still a Lakers fan till today. The Great Western Forum, and I remember, just watching Showtime. I can still hear Magic Johnson's voice. Hi, this is Irvin Magic Johnson with the Los Angeles Lakers. And you're watching Lakers on KCAL 9. And I just remember I was like, man, this is what I want to do. And my very first basketball team, I played for Carolina, Coach Greg at the YMCA, Crenshaw YMCA on Santa Rosalia. And I was the sorriest kid on the I remember the first basket I ever made, or first basket I ever missed, was in the wrong direction. And so you go through that period, and always rode the pine, and but I had this burning desire, because especially now they call it bullying, whatever they call it, but you get teased if you weren't good, and it motivated me to want to be better. So I ran into people that would help me along my way. Specifically, I think about Doug Joseph earlier in my life, who helped me with basketball. And then I met a guy who would end up being a big mentor to me, Sandy Frazier, who taught me, because all through middle school, I kind of struggled. I wasn't, that guy. I had the size, but I just didn't have the coordination. Then my 7th grade year, I was just tired of being the sorry dude, man. I was like, I'm tired. I was at Audubon Junior High School.
Audubon, yeah.
And I saw a buddy of mine, Chris Roberson, who was out practicing, and he was really good. Game was nice, and he was working with Sandy, and Sandy was training. I was like, man, how do I get a part of this? He's like, here's a ball, come on. He says, we'll be out here, 2-3 times a week. And so I was there 2-3 times a week, and we just create that relationship. And, as you know, if you grew up in South Los Angeles, playing for Crenshaw basketball was like playing for the Lakers junior. You know what I mean? Like, it was you're playing junior Lakers ball, right? He had all the success, and Marcus Johnson, and all the highlights of all the, Stevie Thompson. So I was set that by the time I left Audubon, I was going to Crenshaw High School, and I was going to be playing basketball. As LeBron would say, I was taking my talents to Crenshaw High School. And, by the time I got to the eighth grade, I'd gotten better. By the 9th grade, I was doing a lot better. And I remember Coach Katani coming up. He was at Fairfax, and he was trying to get us over. Me, Chris, David, and some other guys trying to get us over to Fairfax. I was like, my parents ain't gonna let me lead the district. That's not happening. Plus, I want to play for a contender. I want to play for the champs. So that's how I got to Crenshaw. Man, it was wild too. I don't know. I don't know if anybody else had the experience we had at Crenshaw, but do you remember? Because there used to be the C team,
Oh yeah, yeah.
the B
C's.
team, junior varsity, and varsity. So you had to work your way up to play varsity. That's how many people wanted to play basketball back then. And now I don't even think they even have B teams anymore.
I don't think so. I don't think they have C's and B's. I think it's just freshman, JV, and then varsity. I think.
Okay, yeah. They might even not even have freshmen anymore. But so I remember tryout basketball. I was nervous as heck, man. It was like this was a big deal, man. Like my whole life, school didn't even matter at that point. I was just like, got tryouts today, and I'll never forget walking into that Crenshaw basketball gym. All the banners, the championships were just staring you in the face. The trophy case as you walk in, and boom, hundreds of players. You remember that? Hundreds of players. Man, trying to try out.
I remember this. Like it was funny because you remember Alistair Fox?
Yeah, Al Fox. Yeah.
He was City Player of the Year senior year, and he was on C's ninth grade year with me. It was like I said, the first. It was 100 players trying out, but it was 100 scouts.
Right.
Because Chris and Tremaine and Tommy Davis, like Crenshaw.
Yep.
Yeah, they had all these players, and so Lute Olson was there, Jim Herrick was there, Roy Williams is like literally at our pickup games, like the tryout pickup games watching, and I was just like, man, this is how it is at Crenshaw. Man. It was insane. So like the first day, I was on the JV side. I was going for JV.
Oh, and the auxiliary gym.
Yeah, and I told my dad, and he was like, "Boy, I didn't send you there to play no JV." So the next day, I went to the varsity side, and then because I was gonna play with Bean, and Bean was like, "I'm not going for it. I'm playing JV." And so I was like, I wanted to play with Bean, but then my dad was like, "No, you go for varsity." Boy, you tripping, and so. And I played varsity, I made the team.
That was a big deal because you made it your
ninth grade. Yeah, ninth grade.
That was a big deal. Like that was something like that was the first time you ever popped up on my radar because I wasn't at Crenshaw yet because you were there before me because that was the last year that they had ninth grade in middle school.
Yeah,
so we had the opportunity. Hey, did you want to go to Crenshaw, or do you want to finish out your last year at Audubon? And I was like, you know what? I might as well graduate from middle school, so I'm gonna stay one more year. So I stayed that extra year, not that extra, but that year, that ninth grade year. So I missed that one, but I remember like freshman makes. I mean, that was, bro. Like that day, you could have played the lottery and you would have won.
Yeah.
That's how hard. Like people don't realize. Like that's how hard. That's what made you a household name immediately. Immediately, you jumped on everybody's radar in the basketball community, in the neighborhood. You became sort of a local like celebrity because it was like, dang, like how does that happen? And obviously everyone kind of watched it as you matured, but and then I would come in the following year, but I just remember how crazy that was. Like, and then tryouts was like this, I want to say it was like a couple of weeks because coach had to filter it down. Like you had to get down to your last 30 or 40 or 50 so he could figure out how he was going to make these teams. And every day was like anxiety filled, man. Going back, checking to see if your name was on the list. Ooh, all right. Going back, checking. Oh, name ain't on the list. If you ain't on a team, don't show up. Bye.
Right.
And then to make junior varsity my first year, that was a big accomplishment because I thought I didn't, it was still insecure. So I thought, maybe I end up on the Bees team, but nobody really wanted to be on the Bees team.
No.
So the fact that I made it to JV, I was like, all right. So that was, but that was my journey with basketball. And then went from JV, my 10th grade year, 11th grade year, I got the call up. It was I had made my 11th grade year. I was still on junior varsity,
but they called you up during the playoffs, right? Yeah.
Not during the playoffs. No, actually, it was early. It was early during the UC Irvine. They had the Nike Extravaganza down at UC Irvine, and we would play against what's that basketball team that everybody talks about on the East Coast?
Oak Hill Academy.
Oak Hill Academy.
Yeah, yeah.
We played against. Oh, that was strong memory right there.
Oh, well, I know Oak Hill. You know what I'm saying?
Oak Hill Academy, bro. I would never forget. My heart's beating. I might have got like 3 minutes in the game, but it was like that was big. Like you're playing against Oak Hill Academy, and so I did all right. And then coach put me back down on JV, and then I would come back up during the playoffs. But it was like that was kind of when you go, man, this is cool. And then I said, all right, I don't want to be back and forth, right? Because I was a hybrid. I want to make this team.
Right.
So that summer I trained hard, made the squad. But then that's where things kind of turned for me, because my brother during that time was a standout football player. Never played basketball or anything like that. He was a standout football player. Was being recruited from everywhere. So after he leaves in '95, they were like, man, you should play football like your brother. I was like, nah, man, that's for barbarians. I'm going to the league, man. I'm going to the NBA. I still had hoop dreams, man.
Right.
Just came out not to, like I was like, no, I got hoop dreams. This is about to happen for me. And I finally said yes because I was under a lot of peer pressure from Coach Garrett. And then I tried to quit. And my dad was like, no, you can't, because you said you were going to do it. So you start something, you finish it. And so I ended up finishing playing football, but it was the biggest blessing, because the truth is, as much pride as I had about basketball, I wasn't as good as I thought I was in basketball. You know what I mean? I could play, right? I mean, shoot.
I remember. He's physical. He was physical.
Physical. Yeah, I was kind of like a Dennis Rodman,
Yeah. You don't remember this, but when we played in Vegas, in that Vegas tournament senior year,
Lamar Odom,
Lamar Odom, and like you guys played them, and then you was like Travis. I was like, what's up? I know how to play you, man. I'm gonna just play you physical. I'm gonna just play you real physical. Like, all right. Like, trust me, man. I can guard you, man. I can guard you. I'm like, all right, you can guard me.
Yeah,
right, sure.
Yeah, that was a great tournament down there in Las Vegas, man.
Oh man,
a
lot of talent, man. And like you said, Lamar Odom, Jason.
He was playing for New York Redemption.
Yep. I remember I was at the game when y'all lost to him.
Yeah,
I was at the game.
Tough. It was in that back gym, man.
Yeah, that back small,
small gym, man. I was like, why do you put us in they should have put us in the main court, man. Like,
no, y'all were ranked in the country. Y'all were like number 15 or whatever it was. So I remember that. I used to come to all the games, but I was trying to be incognito. I didn't want to be like, like I still had love for y'all.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And like I wanted to come.
love for you too, man. I mean,
I still had love.
It was always Travis Reed from Crenshaw went to,
yeah.
You know what I mean?
Pops was like, nah, he was like, I'm bringing you out of Crenshaw, bringing you to Fontana. And I was like, Dad,
right? That's
A.B. Miller. I was like, Dad, nobody goes to Montana. He's like, no, Fontana. I was like, that's even worse. I never heard no Fontana. Never heard of no Fontana.
I never heard that. Was great.
No, seriously. And I was like, because like Crenshaw, we won state and city. So I was like a freshman, like, dude, you won state and city. And like, he was like, well, I'm taking you out of school. I'm first we went to Manual Arts for a year. And then after Manual, we went to A.B. Miller. In Fontana. And I was, it was a blessing for me, but I was still kind of heated that, I didn't finish, Crenshaw.
Right. Well, I mean, you went on to, obviously, your talents followed you. So, that landed you in a big spot, UCLA. That was fun. That was cool to see that. You know what I mean?
No, it was crazy. Like the fact that Chris Johnson, shout out to Chris, was my senior when I was a freshman at Crenshaw. Taught me the ropes, if you want to say, in high school. And then him and Tremaine, and then and Tank, and then what is that? UCLA taught me the kind of the ropes, him as being a senior and me being a freshman at UCLA.
Yeah. That's right. Because you played with rest in peace, the late Ronnie Arch too.
Yep, played with Ronnie Arch. Rest in peace.
Ronnie, man, we were.
Yeah, Ronnie Arch.
Elementary. Yeah.
Oh yeah, Ronnie, Raymond Palmer.
Raymond.
Yeah. Reggie
Raymond not too long ago.
Oh, you did?
But, we went to go see Bean's son, Kevin Bradley Jr. over they were playing in the playoffs, I think it was. and we saw him at the school. So we all came back, to come out to support. It was so hard during the pandemic and try to get into the Willie West Pavilion and but we all made to support that. But it was cool, man, just to see too Kevin Bradley. For those the listeners, Kevin Bradley was, All-American basketball player, Crenshaw High School, and to have his son have that DNA filter down into his son, and for him to carry that torch, it was pretty cool. So I said, man, I'm gonna stop what I'm doing. Baron Davis came out, myself, Raymond Palmer, Robert Parker, Ollie Brent. There was all these guys from different generation that Kevin Bradley, because he was kind of center because he was so young. He was kind of center with the younger guys and the old heads as well, and brought everybody back to come see his son play. That was a special moment, man. We took pictures, a lot of pictures.
Okay, no, that's good. Yeah, because I've been knowing Kevin since I was about 11. Maybe 10.
Good people, man. I love that dude, man. Always
good
been
people.
One of the realest dude. Anytime, always the realest dude in the room.
Yeah, always. Just funny, super funny, just a real chill, low key dude, quiet. Shout out, rest in peace to his pops. You know what I'm saying? His pops was the loud one. His pop, ooh, boom, baby. He was
baby. Mr. Bradley.
Mr. Bradley. So he was always like that. So yeah. So you're obviously did you go AAU? Did you play AAU basketball?
Yeah, I did. I did play AAU. I played with Tiny Flournoy, Coach
Caney Bulls, of course.
Caney.
I played with him.
I still have to take Tiny out to lunch, man, because I owe him. So what I try to do is, I try to reach out. I feel like every success, any success that I've ever accomplished in my life, I always think back and reach back to the people who helped me get there. I had time to spend time with my elementary principal before she passed away, Miss Shepard. Teachers, Mr. Reed. I literally I'm a super reflective dude, and I go back and think hey, how did I get here? And I want to go spend time with those who helped me get there. And so Tiny, probably 3 years promised to go. We were gonna go out to lunch, and I haven't done it, but I'm actually gonna, after I get off this, I'm gonna go reach out to him, because Tiny was so instrumental. He taught me hard work. He taught me discipline. He was the equivalent of what my football coach, Coach Garrett, was to me in football, because Coach Garrett was hard-nosed, man. And Tiny, everybody knew in the hood that Tiny didn't play. If you were going to go to his program, he was going to teach you the fundamentals, right? He was going to teach you the basics. He was going to work you hard, run you to get on the line, 17, suicide. You know what I mean? So, but I loved him for that, because that's what made me thrive. You know what I mean? I thrived in that type of environment. And so I played AAU ball, traveled. The first time I'd ever traveled was with Tiny, from Arizona. So it was the first time where sports took me to, we played in the BCI tournament.
Yeah, BCI. I played with him. I played with Tiny in that.
Yeah, yep.
Yeah. I was ninth grade. I was 14.
You were playing up though. I think because you were playing up. I think I was playing to my age group. But yeah, I remember that, man. It was that was special, man. Those were special times. But that was one of the hard things, is transitioning out of basketball, because I missed that camaraderie. Having played basketball since I was just a little kid, 7 years old. And then I found football, man. It was crazy, because the athleticism from basketball made me way better in football as a defensive end, because I had the footwork, right? I could get around the corner. So even though I wasn't physical, I didn't get the physicality until later. But I was recruited by Cal, Fresno, Colorado State, which was wild, San Diego State, Oregon, and I had 0 basketball offers. I think the coach from Fullerton might have said, hey, we could bring you. I was like, I don't want to go to no Fullerton. And I was like, well, I guess I'm going to let the scholarships speak for themselves. I guess I'm going to go play football. So that was the end of my football journey, with the hope that I could play in college. I remember talking to Tony Gonzalez, because he was playing both football and basketball at Cal. And you should come over to Cal. I was like, I don't know. But I ended up going to San Diego State following my brother. That was the best decision I ever made, because I had somebody there who, obviously close to, that could teach me the ropes of football.
Yeah. No, I was definitely. No, yeah, definitely. you know, like you had obviously your brother. That's unbelievable. You rarely see brothers actually make it to the same college at the same time.
Right.
You know, you see, you know, maybe one brother that's 4 or 5 years older than the next. So that's like I said, that's a tremendous blessing. So you chose San Diego State, right, to play football. Now, I know it was probably hard to give up basketball, especially after the fact that you won state, you know, city and state your senior year.
Right.
And so I just feel like, man, I would have been like, maybe I try out for basketball, but I mean, maybe you were just like, I'm gonna just focus on football and
yeah, no, I wanted to, I couldn't, there was no way. I mean, Coach Garrett gave me a hard time now. Coach West was very accepting of me playing two sports, but I had done something that no one had ever done at Crenshaw. Because to play football and basketball just never got along.
Yeah.
And I don't even think till today, I don't think there's ever been anyone who's actually tried that because they were so demanding.
Yeah. No.
So to be able to play football and basketball was, you know, I got lucky in that regards that I could do it, but I was literally be leaving football practice and then headed into the basketball gym, you know. And I remember Joe Weegley sometimes, rest his soul. And I remember him, you know, sometimes giving me the keys to lock up so I could shoot around after football practice. Sometimes I'd have to miss practice, right? Just depending on schedules and stuff like that, when daylight savings would come and it get darker or whatever and all that stuff. And I remember one time Coach Garrett caught me because the lights went out in the gym and the hallway emergency lights were the only thing on. And I remember leaving the doors open, you know, the two doors on the side of the trophy case open so I could get some light in the gym, and I'm shooting in the dark. And Coach Garrett, this is the night before the game, a home game, and Coach Garrett opens the door. Here it is at like 8 o'clock at night, and I'm shooting by myself in the gym. That's how badly I wanted it. And Coach Garrett looked at me and was like, "You're not focused on the football game." I came back the next day, and my locker was cleaned out. I'm like, "Coach, somebody stole all my stuff." And I'm going, he goes, "You left your locker open. Somebody probably stole it." He gave me the runaround for maybe 20 minutes before the game. He had my stuff in his closet. But he was sending the message that I wasn't focused. But it was like, how do you do that? How do you focus on two sports, you know, that kind of cross over with each other? You know what I mean?
No, that's I feel like, you know, some coaches understand it. Like you said, Wes understood that you play football. That could be your way out. Right. It's all about getting a way out, either or. Like if you want to play football, you want to play basketball, whatever the case is.
Yeah, but you know what? Coach Garrett knew something that was very hard to tell to somebody because, you know, when you're in love with something, it's like even like when you start getting older and you're missing a step and you're not as good as you used to be in your sport. It's very hard to tell that person, hey, you don't have it anymore. And I think the truth is like, look, I'm 6'6", I'm playing center, right? I'm playing the 5 and the 4. You're not going anywhere in college. You're playing 6'6" as a center, right? So, and you know, I didn't have boosties. I wasn't jumping out the gym. I could dunk, but I didn't have boosties.
Right.
So, you know, Coach Garrett saw something I couldn't see in myself, but I wasn't going to let anybody tell me I was going to finish my senior year. Like I would have torn down that whole school. Like I'm finishing and I'm winning the championship, man. Like, so I was able to pull that off, go off to San Diego State. And it would take me a long time. It took me about 2 years before I really grasped the game of football. Because I didn't even know how to play football, man. They just said, line up here in high school, get guy with football. So it was like, me, yes, get guy in front of me, move around, get guy with ball. I didn't know the terminologies and nothing. And everything was like a pump fake to me. I was like spinning and what is this guy doing? But I had a knack to get to the ball, man, and it would end up being the biggest blessing. I always say this to Coach Garrett, our relationship is this tight because he changed the trajectory of my life. You know what I mean? And the pursuit that he had, he saw something in me that he was not going to let go. He never stopped pursuing me. And, you know, and sometimes, you know, parents, mentors, they can see certain things and qualities in kids that kids can't see in themselves. And it takes a special person not to give up, right? Because I thought I knew it all, right?
Yeah.
And I'm sure I gave him enough attitude to where he would have been like, man, forget you, man. I'm done with you. And I would have probably ended up with no scholarship for basketball And who knows what my life would have been like after, right? Not to say that I wouldn't have been a success or anything like that, but he changed the trajectory, man. So like I'm always gonna give him mad props for that.
No, definitely. I understand. No, sometimes, like I said, God puts a spirit on somebody to be like, no, this kid is, like special. I'm going to keep pursuing him, keep pursuing him. Kind of like, there's always a funny story about Larry Bird. He was like, dropped out of Indiana, was working, and then like the coach from Indiana State just kept coming, kept being on him. And he finally caved in, and he told his mom he was going to graduate from college. And then he became obviously one of the greatest players ever in the NBA history. So it might not have been a Larry Bird if a coach that wasn't on him, like, your coach was on you.
Yeah.
So
it's crazy. I was just thinking about first practice at San Diego State, and the coach goes, oh man, I don't know. You just said that. It just made me think of this. But my defensive line coach, Ken Delgado, he goes, hey, I want you to line up in the 5 technique over the tackle. And I'm like, Coach, which one's the tackle? I'm on full scholarship now, right? I'm on full scholarship. That's like somebody said, hey, are we going to run 1-4 high-low? You're like, hold on, what's a 1-4? You're like, what? That's basic basketball. You don't know 1-4, what? You know what I mean? And so he looked at me like I was crazy, and he was like, this is the tackle, this is the guard, this is the center, and this is the mother tight end. I was like, well, I never forgot that one.
right. No, that's hella funny. So I get that. Like I said, I understand that. Yeah. So obviously we just talked about a little bit of it. But what was the hardest thing making that transition from high school football to college?
The hardest transition was leaving my friends behind. That was one. That was the hardest part, because I cried on my drive to San Diego. That was the hardest transition. But I think making the transition to basketball was there's a sense of insecurity because you've invested so much in one thing, and it leaves you very, very vulnerable. It's like working in an industry for 30 years and then saying, all right, tomorrow you got to start a new career. And you're going to be like, yo, how am I going to provide for my family? How am I going to It's that type of pressure, right?
Yes.
And so making that transition wasn't easy. And then knowing that, and I almost had the imposter syndrome too. I had this imposter syndrome, like, okay, there are a lot of people who are going to think I just got a scholarship because of my brother. There are going to be a lot of people who think like this guy never played football. I'm like, how did I? And I started thinking like, how did I get here? Like maybe I shouldn't be here. I don't even know football like that.
Right.
And so that part was hard. So it was mostly me dealing with me than it was anything else, because there were all these different things inside of my head. That was the hard part. And then following behind. And I've talked to certain like Chris Walton. He went to San Diego State, but I spent time talking with him. Tony Gwynn Jr. When you play behind someone who's, or you're in the same family lineage. So for Chris, obviously his dad is, Bill Walton, and his brothers Luke and, Tony Gwynn Jr. His father is the Tony Gwynn, right? There was this thing that we connected about because we know what it's like to play in the shadow of. When you play in the shadow of, man, that's extra pressure on top of pressure, because no matter what you do, people will always compare you to, in their case, their fathers. In my case, my brother. And so you're trying to break that. You're trying to get your own identity while you're struggling with imposter syndrome. So, but once I settled, and I think the speech that helped me settle, because I remember there was my sophomore year, man, I had a complete meltdown. And I had never had a meltdown like that. I grew up in a Nigerian household. So, my parents always, preach being tough. But my defensive line coach, same guy, Coach Delgado, he brought me in, and I was about to just give it all up, man, because I had just had enough. I just felt like I couldn't shake the shadow of my brothers. I couldn't get it. And he goes, you're a lion. Your brother is a cheetah. A lion never looks to a cheetah and says, I wish I was a cheetah. A cheetah never looks to a lion and goes, I wish I was a cheetah, a lion, because the cheetah is the fastest animal on the planet, right? the lion is the strongest, right? It's the king of the jungle. So they both have their innate equalities that makes them very, very special. And they're not willing to give it up to be something else. And when he said that to me, it just hit, it clicked. And that's when I started to accept who I was. I said, you know what? I'm going to be, I don't have to be my brother. I don't, because he was a cheater now. Like, I mean, the reason why he ended up being the all-time sack leader for San Diego State, the all-time sack leader for the Packers, because he was that guy. He was a beast. And so, you know, once I settled that I am who I am and I don't have to compare myself to my brother, I think that's when my college football career started. So I really say my college football career started the end of my sophomore year. That's when it clicked over for me. And after that, I never looked back. I gave up on basketball, still watched it, still support it. Another fun story, my one last glimpse of basketball glory was Steve Fisher, of course, who coached the Fab Five in Michigan, came over to San Diego State.
I remember that.
Yeah, and he had a closed practice, and he knew how much I love it because I was always talking, I'm from Crenshaw. I went to Crenshaw. I mean, anybody who knows me, I might say Crenshaw at least 100 times before the day is over. And so everybody knew how much I love basketball. I'd play with the basketball players, whatever. But I got a chance to run scrimmage with the San Diego State basketball team and Chris Webb, because Chris Webb came in. Now Chris Webb was only staying on the sidelines. He just sideline shots. I mean, you know, he was just running the sidelines. So it was still cool to know. I'm like, dang man, this is cool. That was the last time I really got a chance to at a high level to play basketball.
Okay.
Yeah, but it was fun. That was fun. Man.
That's cool. That's really cool. Okay. So you after you figure out you're a lion and your brother's a cheetah.
Yep.
You take off. What would you say was your biggest triumph in college?
The biggest triumph was, I think
and biggest failure too. So both.
Yeah, that's a great question. The biggest triumph was probably my arrival game. My arrival game was because everybody has that one game that cements like, hey, I've arrived. And for me, it was Arizona State in 2000. It was in September of 2000, and I just had the game of my life. 3 sacks, I think like 7 or 8 tackles or something crazy. I was just all over the place. They couldn't stop me. I was in a groove. I was going up against Levi Jones, who turned around to be a first-round draft pick. And offensive lineman, stud offensive lineman, but just had the game of my life. And it felt good to know that, that I had arrived. My brother was already in the league, so it was essentially my time, my era. And to show up on the first game, I think it was the first or second game. But then a couple of days later, I had probably the worst setback. Actually, a day later, I tore my Achilles in a biking accident. In 2000, it ripped my Achilles, and just like that, all of the momentum in the air and the balloon just like that, and I would have to start back over, and that was probably the hardest thing. I had to switch my position because I wasn't as fast as I used to be. That was, an Achilles injury can be career-ending.
Yes.
And so I ballooned up to 300 pounds, and I was playing defensive tackle now. I felt fat, and I was breathing heavy. I felt like I always had to go to the restroom. You know what I mean? Like my belly was sticking out. You know what I'm saying? I couldn't look at my, like I couldn't see nothing. So it was just uncomfortable, bro. I was like, man, and my coach was like, no, this is a perfect position for you. You're a defensive tackle. I was like, I can't do it. I played 1 year fat. And I said, Coach, I'm done. I am done. I lost 50 pounds, man. I was like, I can't be fat, man. I can't do it. Can't do it. I felt uncomfortable. So I went back out to defensive end, and then I did get a blessing because the NCAA granted me a 6th year of eligibility.
Oh, because of my
Achilles, and then I was able to thrive then. And I would say my biggest failure though was I think to me in my football career is probably not learning the game all the way through, because I think that would later get me in the NFL because I just knew the defensive line position, right? And there's more to that. There's learning the linebacker and learning the entire defense and what the DBs are doing behind me, learning the offense and learning the different. So there's this multi-level layer of understanding being a student of the game. And to me, it's a great testimony in that in anything that you do in life, you should be a student of the game. Your talents can only take you so far. My talents just accelerate the story. My talents got me to the NFL as an undrafted free agent to the Oakland Raiders. I would play there a couple of years. Then I got cut. I got cut in 2005. So I was with the Raiders 03, 04, got cut in 05, landed with the Chargers in 2006. But the reason why I got cut with the Raiders in 2005 is because they switched me from defensive end, because I got all my athleticism back, I got my speed back, I got my boosties back. So I was back, right, from that traumatic injury. Then they put me to outside linebacker, and that's when I got exposed. It was like, hey, we want you to drop to the hook to curl. What? We want you to over the number 2 wide receiver, and the receiver's gonna, when he runs that post and he runs that 7 and he runs that corner route. I'm like, what in the world are you guys? Like, because as a defensive lineman, you don't have to know much. You just big guy in front of me, get rid of him, make the tackle or make the sack. That's it. And so once I went one layer back and playing linebacker, I realized I was exposed. So I had a lot of catching up to do. But in the NFL, and as you know, because you played pro ball too, is that they don't have a lot of time for you. They don't have a lot of patience. It's like, you got to get this. I'm going to give you a little bit of time, but if you can't get it, you're done. So I went to the Chargers in 2006, ran into a great coach, Greg Minuski, who taught me football from the linebacker position. And he helped me eventually start my broadcasting career because that knowledge allowed me to be able to call football games later in life. And I say that because it was a failure of mine, because I think I could have played, 6, 7, 8, maybe 10 years in the league. That was my dream, was to be able to play at least a decade in the league. But that got cut short, only playing 4 seasons in 5 years. And so I look at that as a failure, because, and I would always encourage anybody, whatever you do, man, make sure you know the entire industry that you're in. Don't just be one-dimensional. Be multi-dimensional in whatever area you are, so you can always have depth to yourself.
Okay, yeah, that actually makes sense. And like the fact that you learned, I mean, you eventually learned everything, but
Right.
I imagine like going to outside linebacker, and have to learn how to cover. That's probably like, imagine if like Von Miller, I'm not saying he can't cover, but if he's, I'm gonna move him back, and he has to cover running backs or tight ends.
Or you have to play safety, but it really depends on, because it depends on not only your athleticism, right? There's certain things because of Von Miller's size and all this other stuff, but it's your knowledge of the game to be able to see the game happening. I think in basketball world, I felt like basketball is so interchangeable, though. It's more interchangeable than football, but it would be like the traditional 5 trying to run point. And if you know how to run the floor and you're not a floor general, it ain't going to happen. If you don't have the ball handling skills, like even now, like I got a daughter. This is how it impacted me. Like my 12-year-old daughter, same age as your son, she's playing volleyball. And right now she has the same trajectory as me. She's 5'11". At 12 years old. She's so tall, right? She's taller than everyone. And I'm like, I don't want the coaches just making her one-dimensional. Like she needs to play all the other positions, because what if she stops? What if she doesn't end up becoming 6'3" and she stops at 5'11", right? And so, but it's the same thing in life. Like you walk into a business, or you walk into an industry, like you got to know the different areas that applies to you. And so for me, it was that was hard, man. It humbles you too, man. When you don't know, it humbles you very quickly.
No, I agree with you 100% on that one. I think, when I was overseas, it's a situation where like they want Americans to kind of like basically come in and instantly be the best player.
Yeah, and that's what you faced when you were was it Portugal?
Yeah, I went to Colombia, Bogota.
Colombia.
Bogota. Pretty much what happened with that one was I came in like, after college and not really knowing the pro game. Just knowing college, how to in college, like if you get double team, pass it out, if certain things. But when you're overseas, you got to get your points, and no matter what. and like their game is more of a slow down, more physical game.
Okay.
And so they play zone. They they can put double teams, triple teams, and the Americans got to perform. I mean, I remember my first game in Bogota, I had about 8 points because I was an American, so every time I caught it, they would double team me.
Yeah.
And so I was like, I'd pass it out. The dudes wasn't hitting, and so like we lost. And my coach was like, "What's wrong?" I'm like, "Coach, you ain't watching the game." You know what I'm saying? Like they double team me every time I get the ball. You want me to shoot off double team? I don't know what you got to do. Fix it. So, I had to learn like, okay, other Americans came and was like, look, sometimes you got to shoot terrible shots. They want you shooting terrible shots sometimes rather than them, like the Colombians shooting an open shot, And so like for me, it was just learning how to get my points, like get tip backs, get put backs or go to offensive glass or catch it and go before the double team comes or whatever the case is. Don't wait. And so like, yeah.
Man, it's crazy to hear that because, I can imagine like at your point, having played at UCLA, making it to the pros, being on the international scene, and then having to make this adjustment just when you started to feel like, oh, I'm comfortable. Like I know what I'm doing, right? And then all of a sudden, like, hold on, there's another change. There's another. Like, wait, what? Like, I don't play this. I don't know how this is done. But I think those are the people who always end up being successful, like yourself. Like people who can adjust. My coach always told me this. He goes, sudden change. And we used to do this drill in football where we'd be on the sideline, we'd be talking, and we'd just be goofing off. Like the coach let us goof off, and then at any time it was like state of emergency, like. Sudden change. And as soon as you heard sudden change, you had to run out. You had to find your helmet. You got to get up and you got to go. You got to make those changes. You have no time to think about what you didn't know, what you weren't ready. You got to go, right? And so that's how I treat those changes in life. Like, hey, sudden change. You're either going to sink or you're going to float and keep going.
No, I got you. It's the same thing. I remember in college, they bulked me up because I was taking the creatine and double creatine and all that.
But hot water and the warm water.
I hated that. At least they had Gatorade. But I was like, man, I don't want to. And I feel sluggish, coach. But you need to bulk up because you got to play big man. And so, like in Europe, I was like, okay, well, these dudes. It's just a different style, so I got to be quicker. Yeah. So before I went to Europe, literally right before I went to Europe, I lost like 35, 40 pounds. I did it in a very, very extreme way that I don't recommend for anybody.
Yeah.
I cut my meals down to 1 meal a day. I worked out, 3 times a day. And after I ate, let's just say at 8 o'clock or 7 o'clock mostly, I would go to the track and run like 2 miles, basically run that off. At night, just to lose kind of the weight, and I worked out with my dad like a lot every morning. Like we would shoot and then we would go to the track and and work out. So like that was a little bit more extreme.
What was your lightest?
My heaviest was probably like I was about 270 at Long Beach State.
No.
I got up to 270 at Long Beach State. Got up to 270. My lightest was in Europe because I didn't know how to cook.
Yeah.
So I got down to like 215 playing forward, and so like I was like this, but like teams who had traditional big man, they would just punish me down low because I was just so light. My first year they thought I was sick because I was so skinny in my neck, and I had to go to the doctor all the time because they would think I was like so skinny,
Wow.
It used to be funny.
Can you still dunk?
Yes. I dunked yesterday.
Oh, really?
In my league, in the little 40 and up league.
Okay. Yeah.
It's a little left hand dunk, like nothing spectacular, but hey.
Are you left-handed?
Yeah.
Oh, I'm left-handed too, man.
Yeah.
I think it's what Coach West said to me too. He's that's right. I think he did say that to me.
So left-handed, still could dunk. I had to get back in some shape to be able to dunk because once I quit basketball, I didn't watch it. I didn't do anything.
Isn't it crazy because there is something that a lot of players go through where you have to kind of disassociate yourself from the game to be able to kind of cleanse because it was so much a part of your life. And some people don't get it. Like, it's just a game. Like, no, man, it was actually a part of my life. Like, most people never invest the kind of time that we did in our athletic. And, I always get upset when people just, minimize athletes and, oh, it's just a game, it's just sports. Like, there are not a lot of people who can dedicate from a young age in one area and become a master in one area. Nobody can ever take it. You got a scholarship to play basketball, you played Division I basketball, heck, any divisions of basketball, college level, you were a master at your sport, because that means you spent thousands of hours in playing that sport. Like, everybody who ever played collegiate sport can go out and coach at some level because they mastered a certain level of the game, and it never leaves you. But a lot of people who say that, they've never invested that type of time into anything in their life. Never anything.
Agreed, man. Like, they don't understand the discipline of it, man. And like for me, and like what I'm saying, we were blessed because we was at that 0.000009% to make it to college. Because you figure out how many high schools of it, and we actually make the college. And then you made it to, like, I know it's even probably harder in the NFL than it is basketball. You at that 0.000009 make it to the NFL.
Right.
And same with me in basketball. So I think that, like, people don't realize, like you said, when you said, like, imagine yourself being something for 20 something years and then switching, and that's how it was for me. Like, I played basketball when I was like 6 to like 30, 31, or 32. I retired at 32.
Yeah.
And so, like, that's 20
years of your life.
Yeah. And so imagine that. And then all of a sudden, okay, figure it out. What, provide for your son who was 3 at the time. Yeah. Figure what you're going to do. What's next? And you just like, I don't know. Like, I have no idea.
And it's safe. I was just talking to a guy who, I'll keep his name, remain silent on his name, but just left the NFL, and we were chopping it up. He was trying to figure out how to, and how he was going to transition. And I asked him, I said, so what's next? And he goes, I don't know. And I said, that's good. That's really good. And the reason why is because you have to give yourself time to be able to figure it out. Like, there's so much pressure. It's like asking a kid, what do you want to be when you grow up? What? I don't know. I'm 7. I don't know what I'm going to be exposed to between now and 20. Like, it's such an unfair question. And I think it's an unfair expectation for guys to figure it out immediately. And I think there's about a 3-year window for players when they transition to figure it out, because you do have to kind of slowly walk yourself back, and you got to go through your process. And there's the ups and the downs, and there's the identity crisis, because you figure out, hold on, who am I? Am I just an athlete? Am I more than an athlete? What are my strengths? What are my passions? And that takes time. So it's a fair answer that you said, like, I don't know, because you gave 25 years of your life. It's the same thing. People say this. It's like what athletes go through when they're done with professional sports is the same equivalence to the same emotion that empty nesters go through. They've raised their kids up, this loud house with all these kids, and just like that, they're off on their own. And you're just, no, my dad said it best. He goes, the scary thing is when all the kids are out of the house, the loudest thing in the house is silence. Like, think about that. Like, it's silent.
And that's a heck of a statement.
What do I do? What should I do with my time? I don't have to take anybody to school. I don't have homework to check. Or people who retire. They've been working in an industry for 30 years, and then they're done. Like, they don't have to go back to work anymore. So, like, that's the same thing we go through. But people see, the glory of sports, and they go, oh, they'll be fine. That's not a big deal. But it's devastating, man. It's devastating. It's an emotional shakeup.
It is, man. And I tell people, people I've interviewed and, people I've talked to, people wonder why athletes have, like, substance abuse problems, or they just, they have issues after sports. Yep. It's because once the lights go out and you have no idea what you're going to do, you need a strong support system. Yep. Because, like, for me, I'll be honest with you, like, I got to a low place, really, really low after sports, because I just didn't know where to go, who to turn to, who to talk to. I was just mad. I was just mad at myself. I was mad at the world. I was mad at God. I was just mad, you know, because I just was like, why? I wanted to play longer, but you know, God was like, all right, it's time, you know. And you know, I had to kind of like, it took me like a couple years to kind of get up off that, off that concrete, you know, because it was like I was on the concrete, just didn't know. And to kind of, you know, keep going to get a breakthrough, to like figure out what the heck it is that I want to do, you know. And you know, even searching through jobs and just trying to provide and just trying to figure out my life, you know.
Yeah.
And
Yeah,
so
and
that,
I appreciate your vulnerability and sharing that because, you know, I think we've all gone through that, man, that where you feel like, and some people get lower than others as far as just like how deep, especially if you don't have that support group and that community, man, it's extremely difficult, bro. Like that's one of those things when people talk about mental health, there's an element to transition that impacts the mental health of any person, you know. And so yeah, it's cool. It's just courageous to even just talk about it, you know.
no, it's so much, because it's, you know, especially in our community, you know, African American community, it's frowned upon in a way, you know, like real men don't talk their feelings with a therapist or whatever the case is, and you just got to suck it up, and, you know, and obviously our harsh realities of things happening with friends or family members growing up where they maybe not no longer here. You just got to just go through it and just be a man at a young age. And you know, for me, it's like, you know, a certain form of maybe PTSD, you know, for just, you know, living in the hood, you know, hood PTSD.
Yeah. You know, that's a fair, I think that's a fair assessment. You know, I'm sure there might be people like, how dare you say PTSD? No, like when you see somebody get shot, when you see a dead body in the alley, when you see, you know, people getting raped, when you see, you know, people doing drugs, like that's not normal for a kid to see.
No,
Like,
no.
it's not a normal, you know, you see your first, not first, I mean, well, you experience your first drive-by and then you see many more afterwards.
Yeah,
You know? I mean, like I can't tell you. I mean, I remember the time when there was a shootout at the park, you know, like right there on Slauson, and I'm like, and I'm telling everybody at the pool to get down. I'm like, but I'm 12, you know, I'm the same age my daughter is right now, and here I am, and I'm seeing people shooting each other back and forth. Like that does cause PTSD because you're not supposed to see stuff like that, at least not in real life.
No, I agree. You know, and I'm not saying anything is compared, like you said, PTSD is compared to military, because my father was in the military. He was in the Air Force. So trust me, he understands.
There's levels. No, there's levels to it. But, you know, I'm just saying that because there are people out there who want to be irate about everything and anything. Like, so I had to qualify it for those who don't know, you know, what it was like to grow up in our neighborhood. Like, you know, that's not normal. You know what I mean?
No, it's not. And we become accustomed to it. That's how bad it is. You know, it's like, oh yeah, he's like, oh, they shoot, man. They shoot.
Oh, they shoot. Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Like when you become accustomed to violence, bro, that's real talk right there. And I was saying, like, when you can be desensitized to the point, like, that's bad. Like, if you're 10 years old and you know what I'm saying, like, you're desensitized to that, like, just think about the amount of violence you had to witness in order to be desensitized.
Now think about like you said, think about that. You're 10, 11, 12, and you're like, oh man, somebody getting over, oh, he getting beat up, or oh, he's you know, whatever, because you've seen it so much.
Or
and
to have your life threatened, or to be concerned about the color that you're wearing, and to think, and every day we have to wake up and think like, man, this could be my last day. Or even to be a young kid like myself and thinking, I may not make it to 18. You know what I mean? Like to have that as a legitimate thought, like somebody could cap me real quick and that's it. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And you just never know. So like I said, it's just been a blessing to have on our journey to get to where we're at now. You know, like I said, like your stories like yourself, like it needs to be told because it's such a success story. We always hear about the bad. The bad is always told. But we need to hear more the positive, you know, like how did you get after? Because that leads me to my next question for you. You know, based on your experience, you know, what would you tell the younger Akbar, like saying the high school going to college Akbar, or the college Akbar going to, you know, professional, either football or basketball, you know, like what advice would you give to him?
Oh boy. That's a good question. I'd probably say, you know, to be patient, because there was that strong desire to just, try to manufacture or to force greatness or to force the moment, and letting things happen, but to be prepared, but to let things happen. And I had spurts of those in my career after football, where just being prepared and then letting the moment happen rather than trying to debo every situation and opportunity. Because sometimes too, you can be over aggressive and you miss the blessing that's around the corner. It'd been like me, pursuing basketball with so much, like intensity that I almost missed the blessing of football, but I didn't know it at the time, right? And there are other opportunities in my life where you're so fixated on something that you're unable to have any type of peripheral vision. And so I think the greatest gift that God has given all of us is vision, whether you can physically see or not, but is the ability to imagine and to see, have peripheral vision, to be able to have peripheral vision and see, the outside, right? To be able to get perspective. I think that's what they call it, is perspective.
The word, that's the perfect word. Perfect word.
Yeah. So and that helped me, as I transitioned out of the NFL. The one blessing that I did love was that I knew that the end was coming. And again, knowing that I had perspective and I had a little bit of peripheral, and say, hey, look, I got to be honest with myself. This NFL career ain't shaking out the way I wanted to go. So I started to build while I was in the NFL and making relations in the broadcast area. And, I was scared because, the broadcasting world was usually, and still is really, there's still an elitism to it where you had to have some sort of decorated career in order to get the big jobs in broadcasting. And so I ended up, and it's a funny story, but great story. The way I ended up getting into broadcasting was I called it my backdoor approach. I wrote a book about it called Everyone Can Be a Ninja, about, the underdog path to success. And I went to San Diego State, played for the San Diego Chargers for 1 year. I went to the area that I developed the most amount of relationships in San Diego. And I went to the local NBC station and I was like, hey, my name is Akbar. I'd love to do the post-game show for the Chargers and the Aztecs. And they were like, okay. I said, oh, by the way, I'll do it for free. Got it. And I was like, and that's how I got in. And, at the time I had only, I left the NFL, relatively, in the grand scheme thing, I'm super blessed. I had left the NFL with about $300,000. And that's a lot of money. I'm not saying that's not a lot of money, but for an NFL guy, that's not that much for an NFL guy for the type of money that you can make. And I utilized that money to help me start a career. So, and I just said, well, I'm going to invest in myself. So I worked for free for 2 years building up my career because I knew all my boys who I went to school with that didn't play ball, that were just students. They had already been in the workforce for 4 or 5 years, already developing their skills in this new job and in their careers. Whereas I was in a career, but then I got out of that career. That career is short-lived, which is professional sports. And so I said, how can I accelerate this? And so I went to that local station. They gave me the job for 2 years. I built on that. After that, I started calling college football games for the Mountain West. From the Mountain West, that led to me getting a job at CBS College Sports Network, where I started calling football games for Conference USA. Then I got my big break. And the big break was in 2012 when I got called in for an audition for the NFL Network. And the NFL Network was doing fantasy football. I faked the funk. I studied for like 2 weeks. I had no idea. Never played fantasy football, never heard of it. I was never into it. And I went up there. I just lied through my teeth, man, because I was just talking the talk, but I had no idea. But I nailed it. I got it. I got the thing. And the year after that, in 2013, and this is just how God works, man, right? Like when you can just kind of sit back and step back. 2013, the following year, I get a phone call from NBC saying, hey, there's an audition for this show called American Ninja Warrior. And I nailed that audition. And after that, that was the start of my entertainment career. So I was doing sports broadcasting that kind of segued into entertainment. And before you know it, the two just started to go up and up and up. And what was this? 10 years, 8 years, 9 years later, I end up getting the host on the talk, which I would have never, Travis, in a million years. It was like a dream of mine to have to be on a talk show, to be able to have real conversation like this.
Mm-hmm.
But that format was really just given to women. Like, women own that space, and rightfully so, because what Oprah and Ellen and and people have done. But to be able to be one of the new hosts on the talk with Jerry O'Connell, Cheryl Underwood, Amanda Klutz, Natalie Morales, that's special, man. And so I think it's just a testament to perseverance, and that would be the other thing. So if perspective is one thing, I would tell young Akbar, the other thing would be perseverance, right? And to me, perseverance is trusting that God will put you, will order your next step.
No, man, I was, like I said, when I saw you on and this is years ago, many years ago, you were one of the few things I actually watched on TV. I watched Wipeout, but I was like, Wipeout's cool. But then I watched y'all show.
Way better than Wipeout. We're way better than Wipeout.
Yeah. And I was like, I like American Ninja Warrior a little bit better,
Yeah.
Anyway, but I thought, I was like, okay. And then I was like, my boy's on there. I was like, that's cool,
Yeah.
And I've watched your career kind of blossom, from the transition from football to, broadcasting to, TV show host, and now on the talk, which is like, when you announced it, I was like, what?
Yeah.
I can't believe it, man. That's cool.
I said the same thing too. I said the exact same thing. What? I can't believe it. I couldn't believe it, man.
No, so I said, I was like, man, that's crazy. And because, like I told you, like my dad was like, you mean I'm from American Ninja Warrior? Because I told you he watches that too.
Yeah.
And, I was like, yeah, Dad, he's on the talk now. He was like, he's not on The View, right? No, Dad, that's all women.
Yeah.
That's all women.
Yeah, right.
It's all women. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
The talk. I was like, man, that's crazy. And so I was like, I had to reach out. And when you reached out to him, I was like, yes.
Yeah.
I was like, I wanted to reach out to you anyway, just kind of pick your brain on like, man, like, how did you, make that transition from, football player, professional to, sports broadcast? And that's, that's obviously good, but like the fact that you American Ninja Warrior to the talk, that's like the hard and stepping out of a different space.
The hardest part was really going back and finding people always ask me, well, what was the key? Well, I did broadcast boot camp that the NFL hosted, which they got a bunch of professionals to kind of take you to a 2 or 3 day seminar kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
But the hardest part was trying to make the key. And I always tell people like who've asked, like they wanted to get into broadcasting, like, especially in this era where we have mediums like this, where you hosted a successful YouTube channel that kind of parlayed into your own podcast, is that you have these different avenues. But if you master, like, there's so many different things out there. People are curious. What the best thing that social media and these platforms, all these different mediums have done, they've really heightened people's desire to want to learn.
Mm-hmm.
You only have to be a master of what you know. Like if I wanted to start a channel on how to open up a phone and recreate cameras, and I was an expert at that, guess what? People will follow and people will pay you for that.
Yes.
Like, stick to what you know. Like, you don't have to know and be everything. Just be really, really good at what you know and what you love. And for me, I knew, like, hey, look, I went to San Diego State. I played for the Chargers. I know Chargers. I know, San Diego, because I spent, my younger years there, and that's what I know. And I stuck to that. And it was cool too. It was opportunistic because San Diego is a smaller market than Los Angeles. Had I played at UCLA, I would have had to come up with a different strategy because LA, everybody. If I walked up to LA and NBC and say, hey, I'll do it for free, we're like, who cares? Like, got a million choices, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Just being able to find that window. Hey, what's the window of opportunity? Well, where are the opportunities that I know I can get in or where I can create? Sometimes it's getting in, other times it's creating. like you, like seriously, kudos. It's not easy to start your own podcast, but you didn't let that stop you. You know what I mean? I'm sure there was some hesitancy and like, oh, should I? You know, like even going back to your very first one, you know what I mean? Trying to figure out what the sound of your first podcast sounds very different than, you know, your last podcast. You know what I mean? Because you were finding your voice, but you took your lumps early. Many people are, oh man, well, that's because he was, you know, he went to UCLA and he played pro ball. That's why like, no, hold on. Like I took my lumps early on. Like, you know what I mean? Like it's the only way you get better. Say, I know I took my lumps. You know what I mean?
Yeah. No. And like I said, you was always good to me because I'm just watching you. So, but I imagine like now you're so polished compared to where you were 8 years ago, first coming out of, retirement and stuff like that. So yeah, for me, I feel a lot more comfortable than I did the first time I did this. First time I was like, yeah.
It's hard. But now you can just fire up the mic. All right, let's go. Let's just have a conversation. It's the art of conversation that really, it doesn't even matter what your past is, because, in 10 years, people are like, UCLA, what, Travis, who? Like, like, it's just like the circle of life, right? Like, you're gonna be out with the old and with the new. But the one thing that never gets old is the art of conversation, right? Because if you can bring that out of people, if you can be able to connect with people, and yeah, so yeah, man, it's a cool platform you have, bro.
Definitely, man. Wow, like I said, I appreciate it. You are one of the inspirations to me, and trust me, a lot of other people in our position, we look up to you as far as like making it, like you want to get to Akbar's level, as far as like entertainment and hosting and TV shows and everything like that. I mean, I know I was like, man, shoot, if I get to Akbar level, I'm straight.
Well, you never know, by the grace of God, man. You never know. Maybe one day, man, we'll end up doing something together.
Hey, that'd be sweet, man. Like I said, the Crenshaw boys. It's something like that. Boom.
Collab. You never know, man.
All right. Well, last and final question, and I'll let you get out of here, and then you promote whatever you want to promote,
okay.
All that. So, at every point in every professional athlete's career, basketball, football, baseball, whatever, they get to low points, like where they just kind of like, they don't know if they're going to make it, and I wanted to know, like, how did you get out of that stretch? How did you get out of that low point of like, okay, all right, let me suck it up and kind of get out of that.
You know what? It was something that, and it sounds so simple, and I apologize ahead of time because it's not as prophetic as it should probably be, but it really was the power of visualization. And you're like, well, hold on, what does that mean? Like when I was a kid, I fixated on driving a car with the seat leaned back. You remember that? Like that was, I had aspirations of being able to drive with one hand, being cool. I wanted the shiny silver rims, and I wanted to play loud music in the back of my trunk. Like, and I would visualize that over and over and over again. And as I grew out of that, I visualized on other things. But when I was at my lowest, right, in transitioning, having self-doubt, unsure of myself, unsure of my talents, my worth, I visualized on what it is that I wanted to do next. And that's the hardest part, because the hardest person to get to know is yourself, because we all have denials. We can deny anything we want about, oh, I'm not that, I'm not this, I'm not that. And we try to frame ourselves as this perfect person so we can be comfortable with ourselves. But once you break all of that and you humble yourself and you go, hey, hold on, what am I good at? What am I not good at? What is it that I want? And I ask a lot of guys this too, like when they get out, hey, what is it that you want to do? And the guys who I think are in danger of hitting the lows of the lows are the ones that just start spitting out like 40 different, like, I want to do this, I'm going to get in broadcast, then I'm going to act, then I'm going to get in the music lab, and then after that, I'm going to be coaching, and then I'm going to get, start a trucking business, then I want to open up franchises, and I'm going to be like, yo, what? How do you plan on doing all of that? Like, that's a lot. Like, you got to really focus in. But the anxiety, and the reason why it's called like self-sabotage. People have all of these different ideas going in 20 different directions, because it helps them not stay focused. And they will literally start trying to do the truck driving, the franchise, the broadcasting, the acting. And then before you know it, they just start blaming each other. Oh man, I could have been this, but I had the truck driving thing, but I could have done that, but acting, and I had this audition. And like, you're just making excuses. So at the lowest, I took that time when I felt naked and afraid. I took that time to just really stay prayed up and focus on what I want. Because like a navigation system, once you punch the destination in, it will give you your route. It literally gives you your route. And it's the same thing with visualization. Once you visualize, you're setting a destination and everything else starts to follow. Now, sometimes you notice on the navigation, they'll give you a fast route and they'll give you an alternate route, right? And you're like, well, which one am I taking, right? It doesn't make it as easy. It doesn't mean it's going to be seamless, but there are different routes to get to that destination. But most people don't have enough gas or endurance to even make it all the way through, right? And so I think that's the difference in those who make it out, is the people, because it may not happen in a year. Like for me, people look and go, oh man, Akbar, you made it. And I was like, whereas I feel blessed by that, I'm like, but there was a story before that. Like, I got done in the league in 2008. Got my first real opportunity in 2012. That was 5 years, right? And so that was 5 years of just trying to march my way through. My first television job, I was making $26,500. You know what I mean? And I say that humbly because if you're coming from the NFL, you're going, yo, like I made more than that in a week. You know what I mean? Like, so I had to humble myself, and not on some like pretentious.
No, I know.
It's just like, oh man. So, but I had to take that job, and I'm like, man, how am I going to provide for my family? I had kids by this time. You know what I mean? I'm like, how am I going to raise my kids off of 26,000? I was, I was like, and I was going through money fast, man. Like I mentioned I left with $300,000. By the time before I even hit my career in broadcasting, I was down to my last $40,000. And again, I know that everyone's got different. I just try to qualify it because he's stunting or whatever. But I was down $260,000. Gone, had nothing to show for it. I was living at my dad's house. I lived in my dad's house, the house that I grew up in, from 2010 until 2016. Right? That was just 5 years ago, right? That I was living in the house. I raised my kids for the first 5 years of their life in Crenshaw, in the neighborhood that I grew up in. So, but it took perseverance. It took that gas to get to that navigation. Most people would have checked out like, man, it's a pipe dream. And it started to feel that way. I felt like I was, it was a pipe dream. But I was able to come out on the other end of that, and I stayed with it. And it goes back to my dad when he told me, nope, you started it, you finish it. When I decided that I was going to quit football, he was like, nope. And I'm glad that my father taught me then not to quit, because when it gets tough, that's when people mostly start to check out, right? When that route that they give you, whichever route you take, sometimes it's tricky on a navigation, right? Oh, I'm gonna take the fast route, and that's the one with the most amount of traffic, right? Like, man, I should have took the other route. You know what I mean? We've all been there before. But I said, you know what? I'm in traffic. I might as well just take it. I chose this path. And eventually, if I'm patient enough, I'll get to my destination.
That is great story. Great ending to the show, man. I think, I'm saying, people who do listen to it, like former and current and future athletes, is like they can learn something from what your journey is. Because you're right. Like I said, sometimes, God puts us on the long road, and you're just like, why do I have to run 5 miles and he can run 1?
Yeah, right.
But you got to realize God is making you run 5 for whatever reason that God has for you, make you run 5. And he might be running 1, but you don't know. He might have ran 4 already.
Yeah.
So
I heard Oprah even say too. Like I remember I was listening to Oprah, and she said, her career, even though she was on TV prior to, but she didn't really make it big until she was like 40. But people see Oprah and think like she's been on TV forever. Like she woke up rich and she woke up successful. There was a grind. Everybody has a grind,
No, you definitely got to get a grind to it. Definitely have, like perseverance to get where you're going. Like you said, like we're behind the 8 ball because we played sports for a certain period. Like we could have, if we would have stopped at 20 or 22 rather, when we graduated from college and then straight into whatever career, that's 5 years of making, figuring out what you're going to do.
Bro, that's a good point, because if I were to take myself and you, like, and we'll compare us, like, I was 27, I was like 27 or something like that. So you think about the average person graduating college is around 21, 22 years old. So for me, I was 5 to 6 years behind the 8 ball. You, on the other hand, was like a decade. Right? Like, so you had even further to go to be able to go, okay, what am I going to do now? You know what I mean? And on top of that, you were overseas. So you were even disconnected. So that's actually like adding like another 5 years, because there's a certain network of people, right? Like your network you're disconnected from your network from an international standpoint. You know what I mean? Like,
and that's how it is, man. Like people don't realize, like in overseas basketball, it's not like NBA. You don't get a pension if you play over a certain amount of time. Whatever you make, you make.
Right.
And so, like if I made 100,000, I'm taking home 85, or maybe like whatever their kids, because they take taxes out over there. You have to figure out a way to get your money back to the States, and whatever's in your bank, that's it. If you retire and all your money's gone, that's your money gone.
Right.
And the funny thing is, like for myself, most athletes think they're going to play longer than what they play. I thought I was going to play till like I was 40. And I was like, nope, stop here. But I mean, I had stress fractures in both my shins, still placing them and all that. But still in my legs to this day, still plates. So I always be scared when going through the metal detectors.
Yeah, right. Always stopping you.
Always, I was like, beep. Oh man, it's the shit.
It's the shins, dog. It's the shins. Go ahead, run it.
Run it. So pretty much, you were younger, you spend money a little different than you would have now. And like you said, like the best thing you said was having a plan before you finish.
Right.
It's
a great tool, bro, because people give you access, man. They give you access.
Yeah, so I'm saying especially if you're on top, when you're doing the thing, oh yeah, man, definitely Travis, Akbar, come on in. Well, when you're playing, and not when you're like after, like, yeah, man, I'll do
Isn't
whatever.
that crazy? But that messes with you psychologically, and people don't talk about that. When you get done, and then the same people that were very open to you are very closed to you. And you think, hold on, is it me? Were they just groupies? Did they only want to help me because, and like, and once you understand the game, you're like, you know what? People are going to give me certain access. It's like having one of those timed keys. Like, hey, you get one of these, like at the hotel, you get the magnetic key. But once 11 o'clock comes in, and that magnetic key doesn't work no more. So you got to take advantage of the opportunity when that magnetic key is still working. And because that was the hardest part, bro. That right there messed me up. Like the people who I thought were my friends weren't my friends, really. They were only associated with me because of my success. And it's not lost on me. Like till this day, it's still very hard for me to even embrace my quote unquote celebrity or success, because I realize that certain people won't ride with you because I know at some point my TV career is going to come to an end, right? And it was like, will I have the same circle of friends, or will they be, superficial? So if there is something else that I'm thinking about, you know what I mean? Like build those relationships now, try to take advantage, because there's certain people who just won't mess with you because they only want to be associated with you.
That person, that person.
Like bro, real talk. Like my wife tells me this too. Like, it's harder to make friends. Like even with my quote unquote, industry, celebrity, whatever they call them, like I still tread lightly just because it's hard to really open up. I know people will give you access to relationships, or I get to hang out with cool people and all this other stuff. But I'm like, well, would it be the same? Would I have access if I wasn't on a show? Would you want to hang out with me then? So is it about me, or is it about my status, or is it about my affiliation? So I never get the two. I told myself after the NFL, I will never mix the two. So there's Akbar, the man, the human being that you're talking to. And then there's Akbar, the person who has this occupation and so on and so forth. And I realize there are people who just want to be associated with that, and I'll give them that, but they won't get Akbar, the person. right? Because I know once I'm not on TV anymore, then they're like, I don't want to hang out with you. Talk to my assistant. Yeah, talk to my assistant. You know what I mean? I was like, so yeah, I protect myself, man. So I fool with people like you. Like, I'll go hang out with Bane and Kevin, like people who I grew up with, who's known me since I was younger. Like those tend to be the people I feel more comfortable with, because those are people who keep you real, and they've seen you since your vulnerable stage. You know what I mean? Since you were, snotty nosed kid. You know what I mean? Like,
no, definitely agree with you on that, Akbar, man.
Yeah.
And like I said, I love, like I said, I love you're so candid, and like the real journey of your everything that's happened from start to where you're at now and where you're going beyond. Like I'm excited to see what's next. For you and your career, man. Well, we're gonna cut off at that point, because of me and Akbar. We can talk forever. And want to say thank you for coming on, man. And like I said, watch his. I mean, he don't even need no pub from me, but watch American Ninja Warrior. He is like I said, he is the show. His funny talk. I love the way he be talking about everything he be saying. Super funny, super hilarious. And watch the talk. And like I said, I watch it for him. And no, Cheryl Underwood, she's funny,
Look, that's my homegirl, man.
Yeah, she's super funny too. But like, watch it. But when is those? I know American Ninja was, not filming right now.
So American Ninja Warrior Junior is on Peacock. That's streaming now. We're getting ready to have our finals. American Ninja Warrior comes back during the summer, so it's every summer American Ninja Warrior. And then the talk is Monday through Friday at 1 p.m. Eastern and 1 p.m. or 2 p.m. Eastern, 1 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. And then, of course, I've got my book, Everyone Can Be a Ninja.
Yes.
You can get that on Amazon. You can get that at Barnes & Nobles, wherever books are sold. So appreciate you allowing me to pub those things.
No problem. And like I said, come on. Like I said, I appreciate it. And, I really appreciate you coming on the show. It means a lot to me, man. And like I said, you are welcome anytime you come on. Like, I definitely want to invite you on back.
All right, man. Appreciate it, bro.
Appreciate it. All right, Akbar.
All right, man. Have a good one, bro.
You too.
All right.